Hi, welcome back. Sorry I couldn't upload any video last week. Today, to make up for last week, I'm going to give you a tutorial that covers text follower animation, character level styling in 3D, and creating an explosion purely in Fusion. Let's do this. We start by pulling in a Fusion comp. So we click on Effects, go to Effects, then drag in the Fusion comp. You can always adjust the length of your Fusion comp by typing Ctrl-D on your keyboard. Then you can adjust the length here. 5 seconds is fine by me. This could be in time or in frames, but 5 seconds is fine for what we want to do here. So we go right ahead. We cancel that. We move the playhead to the Fusion comp. Then we click on the Fusion tab. Drag the media out here. The first thing we start with is the text, the follower text that will move in. So we drag a 3D text here. We format it. The text I want to type in here is mad, right? I want the font face to be Gilroy. Where are you? So Gilroy. Let's drag this into the viewer. Let's close this effects tab here. Let's go into dual viewer mode. Then for this text 3D, I want it to have a renderer 3D that outputs it. Let's drag the output to viewer 1. You'll see it's a bit up there. Let me zoom out a bit by holding down Control and scrolling back so I can see where it is on the screen. So I go to text, I go to layout, and I go to Y. I drag that down so it's centered on the view. I don't want to go into too much of camera 3D. I just want this to be a simple 3D outlook, right? So we move on from there. It's centered now. We go back to the text. Let's format it a little. The tracking, let's give it 1.05 tracking. So it has a bit of space. We go to extrusion. Then let's give this extrusion, let's say 0.8, 0.125. That is fine. Then we shade, we color this text. Click on text 3D, then press Ctrl spacebar, type replace. We are looking for replace material 3D. We add that. Then we go to effects. Under effects, we go to templates. Under templates, we go to fusion. Then we go down to shaders. We drag down chrome. We connect this chrome to replace material. And you'll see in the render view, we can close this effects tab. Then we see that there's a bit of a chrome shading going on here. We won't do any adjustment. We just want something simple. That's that with shading the text. The next thing we do is to animate this mad text as you've seen in the intro video. So what we do here, we right click on here and we click on follower. We go to modifiers. Then we make sure we're on frame 1. You can click on this to go to the very first frame of the comp. We go to shading. Under shading, we go down to position and rotation. We keyframe the X rotation and we keyframe the XY offset. You'll see path 1 here. I don't want to use this, so I go back to follower. So we see our keyframes are here. We want this whole animation to end by frame 20. So we keyframe this, we keyframe that. So we go back to the first keyframe, which is the beginning of the comp. And then we put 90 as the figure here. And then we pull the Y value down off the string. So if we play that back, you see it moves all in unison. But we want it to be staggered. So we go back to text 3D, we go to modifiers, we scroll up, we go to timing, and we set the delay here to 3 frames. Then we want the order to be random but one by one. If we play that back, that's what we want, but the animation is not smooth. So we go to spline editor, we click on displacement and angle, we click on zoom to fit, click in this grid, press Ctrl A on the keyboard to select all the keyframes, then press F on the keyboard. Press T on the keyboard, then adjust the easing to be about 70. Now we can close the spline and play it back. This is renderer view. If you look at it here, you see what we've done. Yes, that's a whole lot smoother. We're done with the text follower. That's the first part of this tutorial. Now we move on to character level styling for 3D. What we do, we copy all this, copy, click here, and paste. We don't want to duplicate this Chrome shader. We can always connect this to this. So we can delete this and connect this to that. So we have the same text here. Next, what we do is we drag a text 2D node. We drag that into viewer 2. Then we type the same text there, mad. We style the text the same way we styled the 3D text. We pick Gilroy. Let's increase the size a wee bit. Then the tracking, 1.05. I need to increase that a little bit more. Something like that. We right click on this and we click on character level styling. This modifier will get highlighted. Click on the modifier. Go to this whole animation will end on frame 45. So we click on frame 45. Take that keyframe there, then go to shading. Nothing appears here. So we need to select one of the texts. So I click and drag and select M, then this appears. We expand position and rotation, scroll up so that we can view it. At the end frame, all of this text should have been off the screen, right? So we're going to move this M to explode this in this direction. So what we do is I spin this, then I make sure I spin the Y value a whole lot more, not too much, something like that. Then I move this here and up. So we off screen. We pick A. We want it to spin down to this direction. So I drag it down, move it to the side a little bit. I rotate it just a little bit. Then the Y value a little bit. And move it down further off the screen. Select the D, want it to be perhaps somewhere around here. So I move it here, move it up, move it here, spin this, increase this a little, then I move it off screen like that. Y value up, so it's up. Go to frame 40 from where the animation starts. And we double click on this to reset it. We double click on this to reset it. We double click on this to reset it. We select the next text. We double click on angle X, double click on angle Y, double click on offset X, Y to reset it. We go to character N, double click on angle X, double click on angle Y, double click on offset X and Y to reset it. If you click on here and we move frame by frame by pressing the direction arrow on the keyboard, you'll see what we have done. Fantastic. So to get this, we need to connect this to this. So we go to Text 3D, go to Tools, Now for this text 3D, remember that we copied this and it has the follower on it. We need to remove that follower from this text 3D. So I right click on here and I click remove follower. And in place of it, I right click on it and I connect it to character styling, styled text. If we drag this renderer 3D to this viewer here, and we go to frame 40 and we move frame by frame, you'll see what we just did. Fantastic. We're done with that. We want a situation where we want to connect this now to this. You recall that the animation of this one stops around frame 20. Now, because this stops, if we drag that here, you see what I mean. This stops somewhere around here. So around frame 35, I want to make a switch from this to this so that we can now see this explosion going on. To make that happen, I click on an empty part of the node grid. I press Ctrl spacebar. I type dissolve. I click add. I make this the foreground and I make this the background. At this point, I want this to be showing the foreground. So when this is 1, it will be showing the foreground. If we move 1 frame forward by clicking the arrow button on the keyboard, we can drag this to 0. So now it starts showing this, which is the background. If we check this view now for the dissolve, we move 1 step at a time by pressing the arrow button on the keyboard. You'll see that at this point where it switches, you don't see any difference, but then you'll see the explosion happen now. So this one is now the one taking effect. That's what we want. Now that we're done with the text follower and character level styling in 3D, we move on to the next thing, which is to create the explosion purely in Fusion. We drag in a fast noise node. Let's name it fire. Let's drag that to viewer 1 and let's style it a little. Set the detail to 6. See through it to 0.8. Set it discontinuous and inverted so it has a fiery look to it. We click on color. In color, we go to gradient. Here we go to radial. Drag this point here to the center, or better still, we can just type the figure here, 0.5, double click, 0.5. So it's at the perfect center. We click somewhere around 1/4 of the way in to create another color point. Then go to this first color. We change this color to this value, hash FFB640. This same figure we have here, we can copy it, click on here, click there, highlight that, paste it. Then here, we pick a gray color. See, something like that. Now this gray color, we can do with 0.75 opacity. This one, we give it an opacity. This will have an opacity value of 0.75. See, it's starting to look like now this particular value here, we need to make it a little brighter. So we drag it towards here. So yeah, so the center is burning bright. And we click OK. So let me just pick the value for you, FFE-F40. Okay? Yeah. Maybe we'll drop it down just a little bit. Yes, something like that. So it's F9A63E. Now this is looking like an explosion. We move on from here. Then between here, we click, we set the scale from, want the scale to move from a value of 7 at this point, we keyframe this, to a value of, go to frame 75. We want this to go to 1. So if we play this, you see what I'm trying to do, something like that. So it looks like an explosion is going on, right? We go to Fire, go to Spline, ensure scale is ticked, then click Zoom to Fill. Select the keyframes, press F on the keyboard, then drag this down a wee bit so it has this sloping movement. If you play that back, see that movement is what we want. You will see that this fire element appears all through the duration of this comp. We want to use a mask to make sure it appears only from this period to somewhere around here. So we drag in an ellipse node. Drag this ellipse node to viewer 2. Then this ellipse node, I don't want it to be circular. I want it to be something like this. To make that happen, I right click on height, click on expression, connect this to width, then divide this width by 1.8. So it looks like that. And I don't want the edges to be so sharp, so I give it 0.1 as a soft edge. Now, if this wipes this figure, you see that this whole thing is too smooth. I need it to have some kind of fiery kind of edge. So what I'll do is I'll make a copy of this fire node, copy, then paste it here. I'll rename it to mask, noise mask. Okay, so this noise mask, I need to remove this scale that I did here. Then I'll leave everything the way it is. Then I drag a displace node by pressing Ctrl spacebar and typing displace. Add that. Connect this noise mask to this displace green input. Then connect the ellipse to the input yellow node of the displace. If you drag this to viewer 2, nothing happens. If you click on displace now, we set the refraction to 2. Now we see something going on. That looks better. We drag this up. Now we want this ellipse to start its movement is from 0 from here to about 47 here, where it will completely cover the whole screen. So I go here, I go to width, I drag it to 0, click the keyframe, and I go to frame 47. You see frame 47 here. I tick this and I drag this to cover the whole screen. So that kind of covers the screen. So I'm going to put it like, just to be on the safe side, covers the whole screen. Let's say 1.75. Okay. Now for this ellipse, I go to spline, go to show, zoom to fit, select everything, and press F on the keyboard. Click on this and drag this so it has this sloping look. And then as this thing exposes this fire here, I want some other mask to now wipe the fire off. With the same ellipse, I'll copy this. Just follow me, we'll get this together. And I right click and I paste it. But what I'll now do is I'll offset this ellipse. So I click on this ellipse here. I'll offset it to start. So I go to offset the keyframes for this. I'll click on keyframes. I'll expand this. Then click on here to see the keyframes. Then expand this. Then I'll move this to frame 45. Then I click outside of it so I'm able to select one of the keyframes, and I drag this to frame 80. You see this curve here is off. I'll uncheck keyframe, click on spline, click on zoom to fill, Then I'll click on this, drag this down, click on zoom to fill again. And yeah, we have something like this. But for this ellipse, I want the soft edge to be 0.2, a bit softer than this. Because when it wipes off, I don't want it to have as sharp an edge as when it wipes in. Now to merge these two together such that this appears first and this wipes it off, I'll drag a merge node. This will be connected to the foreground input of the merge one, and the second one, which wipes it off, will be connected to the background. I'll go to the merge node, go to operator, and I'll click on held out. If I drag this to viewer 2, you'll see what happens. So I move frame by frame. That appears first, then this comes up and wipes it off. That's the thing we want. So let me arrange this a little better. Drag this, arrange this, put this here, put this on top of here. Let me select all of these, move it down, and drag this file down. Now I need a merge node, and I'll connect this fire to the foreground, drag a background node. For the background node, I drop the alpha to 0, connect the background node to the background input of merge 2. So arrange this, then connect this merge now to the mask input of merge 2. If you drag merge 2 to the viewer, and we play it from this point, see what happens there? This ellipse is happening a little too fast. So I'll go to the ellipse, go to the spline, zoom to fit, and drop this down, drop this down so it has a gentle slope to it. Yeah. So if you go to the viewer again, that's it. That's what we want. We do the same thing for this. Click on here, drop this down, and drop this down like that. Okay, so if we view it now, it's going to fill. I need to adjust a little bit. Just a little bit, something like that. So if you play back, okay. So now the fire is that, and now for this noise mask, let's adjust the seeth a little bit so it's a bit different from the seeth value of this fire. So if we go to merge and play it back again, yes, that's what we want to explode and all. Select all of this and make a copy of it. Copy. Then we drag up by holding down the middle mouse button, then right clicking and paste. We label this, rename it to smoke. Then for this one, I want the noise to move from, I want to move this keyframe. It will start from frame 40 anyway, but it will end at frame 80. So I go to keyframes, expand keyframes, and I drag this to frame 80. Close keyframes. I don't change this spline, it's fine. And I go to this ellipse. I change this ellipse to start from frame 40, but it ends at frame 50. So I go to keyframes, I drag this, expand this, then drag this to end at frame 50. Close keyframes. Then for the next ellipse, starts from 50. So expand keyframes, expand this. It starts from frame 50, and I want it to end at frame 85. Okay. Go to smoke, we change the color, click on this, pick black. Click on this, pick black. Click on this, pick black. Now for this, 0.22, then for this 0.5, and for this 0.85. Now there's something that here you'll see the motion here. Let's drag this to the viewer. Play it. It's kind of gentle. We want it to be more faster, the movement towards the screen to be faster. So to make that happen, I click here, I insert a transform node. Now this transform node starts in motion from the point where the explosion starts. That's frame 40. I click on size. Then I want it to stop its motion by frame 60. Let's pick 60, that's frame 60, and I push it to 8. I go to spline, zoom to fill, then I want this, I press F on the keyboard, I drag this up, so gentle sloping feel to it. I close spline, then we view it again. So it's a whole lot more. Yeah, that looks better. We click on this transform, copy, we right click, we paste, we connect this to the input of transform, click on this and connect that to the input of merge 2. Now for this transform, I do not want it to, I want it to start from frame 40 but end a little longer here. So I click on keyframes, expand this and drag it to almost towards the end of the animation of the comp. There, I close keyframe, I go to spline, zoom to fill, I adjust this, and I click zoom to fill again just to make sure everything is fine, and there we go. Close spline. Let's join these two together. Recall that this merge is what we're joining. This merge is what we're joining. So to join them together, drag a merge node. We connect this to the background. We connect this to the foreground. Between here and here, we add a blur node. So we click on this blur. Now this blur, we give it a value of 10. So it blurs the smoke and makes it look a little more smoky, so to speak. So you drag this to the second viewer, click on here, because the explosion starts from frame 40 to 45, which is why I keep clicking on there. Click and play it. So now you see that the yellow for the fire is a little too yellow. So I go to color. I reduce the opacity, and this, I reduce the opacity a wee bit more to 0.5. Then we view it again. So this, I'm not comfortable with this yellow. So we are going to change the yellow to something a little more intense like that. And drop it a bit to 0.7. Let's see what we got. So I want this color to be dirty, something like this. This is beautiful. So to be sure of the color is F9D070. Pardon that I'm changing the colors, but I wanted it to look a little dirtier. So there we go. Drop that, and this we drop this. We go here. Okay, that's looking more like it, right? Connect all these together. This will sit on top of this. So we drag this and connect to this merge node, and we have a merge node. Now, this merge node here, I'm going to connect this to, I want to give it a background. Let's drag this background to viewer 1, give it a gradient, drag this here, drag this here. For this value, I want it to be maybe bluish, kind of dark bluish. Then here, I want it to be reddish or dark reddish. Something like that, nothing too fancy, just give the background, then we drag this, connect this to this merge, we drag this here, right click on here, swap inputs, drag this here, we go to here, we see the text, play, and there it is. See the animation, it's crazy, isn't it? The next thing we need to do, just to add a bit of drama to the whole thing, we add a camera shake. So I press Ctrl and spacebar, type camera, then I drag camera shake and click add. This camera shake, I want the X deviation to be 1, the Y deviation to be 0.5, rotation to be 1. Take this overall strength, keyframe at frame 43, move 1 frame forward, take another keyframe, move 1 frame forward, check another keyframe, move another frame forward, take another keyframe. So 4 keyframes in all. This last keyframe, drop it to 0. Then the very first keyframe, drop it to 0. If we view this, you see that edge thing going on there. So I go to edges, I go to mirror. We go back there. So that's shake, it's what we wanted. Now also we add, if you click on merge, go to settings, we add motion blur, and drag this to 10. Then let's scroll up, media out, connect media out. And we go drag this to viewer 2, make this a single view. Then we play what we've done. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. Even if I say so myself. We can also go to the edit view, so the playback is smoother. See, it caches as it plays, so we can play back smoother. See how the film engulfs the A there? That's so beautiful to see. That's so beautiful to see. Let it play out, then we'll see how that goes. So now let's play. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye.